live?
Check. That says not there.
Good. It's popping.
Okay, so with all being said, we want to first off say call halal.
Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash.
We would like to give double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who taught us this truth. Also would like to say peace and blessings to the hopeful elect that's pushing this word in all sincerity and faith throughout the four corners of the earth. I'm Yadakai with the Great Millstone Dallas camp. All through the spirit, another opportunity with the Akim to come break bread through the spirit and just touch on some current events, as you will, concerning the fall of Great Babylon, which we know Great Babylon is that wicked nation that's prophesied to be destroyed in the last days. So the minute of the Lord, we always are measuring the times and certain things that the Most High is showing us through the Spirit to know that we're that much more closer to the return of our Savior to clean up this mess. But without further ado, me and the brother, we was just having a discussion just on the U.S.-China relations. So article, some scriptures, and we'll just flow in the spirit. So brothers, even that's watching, you know, if y'all want to post scriptures, comments, we welcome it. You know what I'm saying? This is a feast. So anybody want any opening point scriptures before we get to the article?
Oh, we can go ahead and start with the article.
Okay, we'll start with the article.
All right, the article is out of the Washington Post, and it is June 1st is when it came out.
It's June. I know, right? I know that is like too, you know what I'm saying? For the guys in the know, you know, that humor you'll get, you know.
Right.
It's for who it's for. Go ahead.
All right, and the topic here it says Trump's stunning decision to escalate trade wars with China and Mexico signals a turning point for the U.S. policy.
That's right. It says a turning point for U.S. policy, man. Because even in times past, in recent years, within the last 3 or 4 years, the U.S. has always accused China as being currency manipulators.
Right.
We know that China holds the most U.S. Treasury notes, so they're always trying to accuse them of trying to get an upper hand as far as just the global trade. When the thing is, America is the biggest consumer nation, and in China, they're basically a huge importer nation. So we already know, just through advances in technology, China, they're at a fast pace as far as the implementation of the New World Order in this whole market of beasts, RFID microchip technology. But America, they see in the moves that China's making, and they basically trying to do things to slow them down. They see in the moves that China's making in Africa, investing in infrastructure. You know what I'm saying? Basically trying to establish position to have a control over those resources that they can use to produce. So America's seeing these things that's going on. So these trade wars, these are all just different levels that America, it's a trade war or a game or a trade game. It's basically you're doing things to weaken the other person to put yourself in a greater position.
Right.
So within that title, it said Trump's stunning decision to escalate trade wars with China and Mexico, and by the way, Mexico too. And that's another reason why Trump, he's been emphasizing just bringing production back to America, getting America back in the spirit of producing things, not outsourcing production. Because during the time this guy Clinton was in office, you had this agreement called NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, which basically during that agreement, a lot of labor got outsourced to certain parts of Canada, India, and Mexico. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
Just a quick little point, since we're going into China as well, going into these tariffs. I mean, you know, I'm not saying this has nothing to do with tariffs, but when you go into Mexico, actually, man, there's a lot of the Chinese that are actually moving down in the regions of Mexico as well, man. Believe it or not, these are people that actually have power down there. You know, so just when you had made that statement, all this is ringing a bell going into that.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Just want to bring that
and that makes beautiful sense too, because if you look on like clothing, t-shirts and stuff, a lot of the times, like years ago, it was mostly made in China, but now you be starting to see made in Mexico. So that shows that these nations, these countries, they're used to produce a lot, but America's basically trying to, through Trump, they're trying to get a hold of that and reverse that whole process, because it's detrimental at the end of the day. Just not having the ability to produce, consume, you know. But it says these trade wars with China and Mexico, it says it signals a turning point for U.S. policy. So there's about to be a drastic change as far as the way of doing business. But like Apostle Gabar said we got to get the scriptures because I don't want to ramble too far.
I got one right here.
Go ahead.
This is 2nd Ezra chapter 16, verse 1. Woe be unto thee, Babylon and Asia.
Yep.
Woe unto thee, Egypt and Syria.
That's right. Woe unto thee, Babylon and Asia. And we know through the spirit, ancient Babylon, it was destroyed.
Right.
But the modern day Babylon, the great daughter of Babylon is America, man. Woe means destruction unto modern day Babylon and Asia. That represents the Chinese predominantly, man. So even though the so-called Chinese, which they're the nation of Moab according to the scriptures, even though they're making all of these moves, they're actually investing in infrastructure, they're actually investing in military arms, you know, as well. They're trying to set themselves up to be the next kings to be. They're not going to be next. Moab is not going to be next. After Great Babylon is destroyed, the kingdom of heaven is going to be established on earth.
Yeah.
So that's why the scripture said, woe, not only to Babylon, but also unto Asia as well. And what did the other part say? The other nations?
It says, woe be unto thee, Egypt and Syria.
Woe unto thee be Egypt and Assyria, man. You know?
Syria.
Syria.
Just
Syria.
Just Syria.
Yeah, because that whole region really, you know?
Yeah, right.
That whole region that's known as the Valley of Yahweh Shaphat,
That's
the
right.
Valley of the Most High's judgment. So all of these different things are escalating to build up the Third World War, ultimately, which is going to bring in destruction to Babylon and all of those areas.
That's right. That's right.
You know?
Gone.
Matter of fact, since did y'all know?
It's not a little. It's more on it.
Go ahead.
This is verse 2. Gird up yourselves with clothes of sack and hair. Bewail your children and be sorry, for your destruction is at hand. And you brought up the point earlier, and we're going into this within the lesson, how a lot of people think that China is going to be that next superpower that's to rule.
That's right.
But when you read it right here, he clearly tells you that Babylon and China, when it says put clothes of sack and hair, that goes to apparel of mourning. All right, for your destruction is nigh. It says, verse 4, a fire is sent amongst you, and who may quench it? It says, plagues are sent unto you, and what is he that may drive them away? May a man drive away a hungry lion in the wood, or may anyone quench fire in stubble when it hath begun to burn? May one turn again the arrow that shot of a strong archer? The mighty Lord sendeth the plagues, and who is he that can drive them away?
That's right. So it's going to just be cross elimination across the board.
Right.
Of course, China, they come to position to have nuclear weapons now. You know, we know that the first nukes was dropped in Japan on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. But now the Chinese, like I was saying, they're investing in their military. That means they're investing in nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
So they're going to be shooting missiles on Great Babylon, America, and vice versa. America's going to be shooting nukes on China because we always go into trade wars eventually turn into real war. It's only a matter of time before they just keep putting tariffs and certain embargoes on each other to a point where it's going to come to a standstill at the next level. Like, oh, it's war, conflict, you know? Go ahead.
That's it on that one pretty much.
Matter of fact, you had something to say?
Well, as like you say, we see America's and all these tariffs they put out. We're starting to see America starting to lose their grip, you know, on basically the world.
Yep.
You know, as we see Syria, they went into Syria. They basically that was a war lost to them.
Yep.
You know, Russia stepped in, and then like you say, China they going into Africa, and they basically going into Africa getting their raw materials. This is basically going into being detrimental to America.
That's right.
You know, so when America more and more starting to see this, eventually they're gonna. When you see eventually you're losing your power, and before your power lost, you're gonna fight back. And what's gonna ultimately come to that is shooting missiles.
That's right.
You know?
That's right. I mean, that's where it has to go to. I mean, when your back's against the wall, you're gonna go to your strongest weapon of defense, and we know that Esau's blessing is a sword. That's how the Most High set him up to rule and establish what's known as a global hegemon throughout the earth. But the point's being made, once Great Babylon is destroyed, you other nations, you other heathens outside of the nation of Israel, you're not next to rise, man.
Right.
That's not what the scripture says. And for that, before we need to come back to the article, I want to get this. If somebody could get Zephaniah 2 and 2 and 8. Okay. And read 8 and 9 about Bashar.
Zephaniah 2 and 8.
Read all the way through 10, matter of fact.
Okay. I have heard the reproach of Moab and the revilings of the children of Ammon. whereby they have approached my people and magnified themselves against their border.
Right, and we can go to Psalms 83, the heathen lineup, man. You know, so of course the main nemesis to the nation of Israel and to the Most High and to just righteousness is Esau, the red Hebrew Edomites. But then within that, you have these heathens that are in confederation with Esau, mainly Moab.
That's right.
The so-called Chinese, which you would call today. Also, too, the Japanese. We can't leave them out. You know, they're a major producer as far as like the cars. Like in America, what's the most driven car in America? Probably is a Japanese automobile.
Yeah, Toyota Corolla.
Right.
Yeah, for the most part, of course, there's German vehicles and other vehicles too. But the main vehicles that people drive in America are Japanese cars.
Ain't Honda Japanese?
Yeah, Honda,
Yeah.
Toyota, Nissan.
Oh, that was
All the things that's all Japanese made,
Yeah.
but just through that ability, you know, Moab and Ammon to be great producers to the great consumer America, that has built up pride in them.
right.
And of course, they were set up to be over us like a middleman between us and Esau. But just having that ability to do business and make profit off of Esau, that has them looking down more so on the children of Israel even more. You know, but the point that I'm making is they're either Moab or Ammon, they're not going to be next to come in power.
Right.
No matter how many sweet deals you do with the damn devil, you know. Go ahead. Or Salaki, was you reading?
You want me to keep going to verse 10, right?
Yeah, just read through 10.
Verse 9 says, Therefore, as I live, saith Yahweh of hosts, the power of Israel, surely Moab shall be as Sodom, and the children of Ammon as Gomorrah.
And what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah, man? I mean, it ain't hard to tell what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah.
Right.
Which we could really equate America to being spiritual Sodom and Egypt, but it just said here that Moab, man, shall be as Sodom and Ammon as Gomorrah, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be burnt to crisp, too.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Right. I say this because when we go to the 3rd chapter, all right, the Most High is gathering all the nations in the valley of Jehoshaphat for the 3rd World War, man.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just not going to hit this place.
And in the middle of verse 9 it says, Even the breeding of nettles and salt pits and a perpetual desolation.
Mm-hmm.
The residue of my people shall spoil them, and the remnant of my people shall possess them.
That's right. So you Moabites and you Ammonites, man, your lands that you in, it's going to be made a desolation, too.
That's right.
And then you're going to be in slavery as well. You're going to be in servitude under the nation of Israel. So the point being made in reading this is that you Moabites and you Ammonites, you're not next in line to rule. Just because Esau's going down, don't get too happy and think that you're just about to just scoop up the ball, like you're going to scoop the fumble.
Yeah.
You're not going to scoop the fumble, Roomski, man.
We got next.
We got, yeah.
Yeah, who can't be saying that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We got
These
that.
nations, that's why they so proud, man. And really, too, besides Edom and some of them damn Hamites, I can't stand you Moabites and you Ammonites, man.
Mm-hmm.
You proud as hell, just like Esau.
Mm-hmm.
Because really, you want to be Esau. That's why instead of wearing a damn, what are them things called? Like the little garbs, the traditional garb that they wear. Today, they're wearing a damn suit and a tie.
Right.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
Speaking English, trying to conduct themselves, even when they come here, trying to be like Edomites, man. So the hell with you too. Y'all not gonna be next, man. Y'all gonna be put back in y'all place too, as washpots.
They're extremely proud. You know, if I don't want to say the location or my job where I work, but I work around these different nations, and they come actually down to visit to buy certain products from where I work. And just because they have the billions to afford the product that my place of employment sells, they look at you like a Jake, like you ain't nothing. You know, even when they walk, when we're driving our carts and everything like that, and we have the right of way automatically. We have the automatic right of way because we're part of the production and we're supposed to have it. When they walk, they don't look left and right, they go. And it's like if you right there, they want you to stop. You know, just use that as an example. Like,
Yeah.
these people are proud as hell, man.
Right, God.
You know, and when you see a Moabite in the height of his pride, he looks down at you like you a piece of shit, man.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, and it's even to a degree how he does it. It's to a degree, it's damn near worse than how Edomites look at you, man. Because they'll at least try to play it off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? These Moabites don't give a
They
damn.
don't like
They'll look at you like, I don't like you, I'm better than you.
Right.
Yeah, what are you going to do about it?
Right. They'll cut you off when you talk to them that word.
Yep.
Okay. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, that's exactly how it is.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Well, really, y'all, you Moabites, man, you on a low level DNA wise, man. You're incest babies.
And that's it.
So you come from Lot. We can go into your history too. We can break you nations' histories down, man. So you don't have any position over us, man, trying to treat us as we're insignificant when you were made to be the insignificant nation that dropped from a vessel, you know, that it talks about in Second Ezra. But can you read 10, Baba Kashar? And we'll get back to that article. Can you read 10?
It's like you looking at him. Verse 10 says, verse 10 says, this shall they have for their pride, because they have reproached and magnified themselves against the people of Yahweh of hosts.
That's right. It's talking about you Moabites and you Ammonites, man. You proud as hell, just like Esau.
Right.
You know? And pride goeth before destruction. So even though Great Babylon, the chief enemy, he's about to be destroyed, you other nations finna get touched too. You know, that's why the scriptures talk about Yahweh having all them different crowns on, man. It ain't finna just be no other empires and nations ruling with us alongside of where Yahweh like other joint rulerships. Nope.
Right.
Everything's getting put under subjection. You know? But the way the process is gonna start off is by the destruction of Babylon.
That's right.
That whore has to be completely removed first. That's the first task of the day. You know, go ahead.
Zephaniah 3:8. Therefore wait ye upon me, saith Yahweh, by Shem Yahushai, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger.
That's right.
For all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy.
For all the earth shall be devoured with the power of the fury of my jealousy, man. So meaning when this nuclear destruction take place via World War III, it's going to be nukes shot off from all different parts of the earth. Now, it's going to be certain parts that, you know, be preserved. But really, this whole earth is just in a defiled state right now. So fire is a cleansing agent. The earth needs to be renewed. You know what I'm saying? Because the kingdom of heaven is going to be played out on earth.
That's right. I say it is, because the scripture say the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathen, man. So you other nations jockeying for the position like we're going into, man, you just doing that just because it's the will of the Heavenly Father, man. You know, the king's heart is in the hand of him that turneth it, you know, as Proverbs 21 tells you. Right. So, hey, you just pretty much playing a part of a bigger, playing a role of a bigger picture, man. For us all to be, for the Lord to come back and take over all these kingdoms and for the nation of Israel to be raised up.
That's right.
Like the brother saying, y'all thinking y'all finna get the next top spot. Nah, man, you just playing, you just a cog in the machine, man.
Exactly.
To where your whole end is gonna be all of y'all fighting against each other, and the Most High setting up beautifully. Right. So y'all jogging for position, y'all gonna kill each other off, man. Because all these other nations had a hand on us as well, man. And at some point in time, each nation had us in captivity, so you still gotta be paid back for that.
Yep. That's why it says, for my determination is to gather the nations. So even if China is hoarding up resources and doing things to elevate themselves above Esau, you're doing it in vain for it to be transferred over to us. You know, so hey, keep doing what you're doing at the end of the day, man. You're fulfilling prophecy in the will of the Heavenly Father. Is that it on that? Yeah, let's go back into the article. Let's read some points on that, and then we'll get some precepts.
Right. Back into the Washington Post, it says President Trump's plan to slap new tariffs on Mexican imports weeks after escalating his trade war with China.
And let's look up that word tariffs, because you know we might have new viewers and things of that nature. We're gonna go into what a tariff is. You know, can you read that again? That sentence.
It says President Trump's plan to slap new tariffs on Mexican imports weeks after escalating his trade war with China leave the United States fighting in multi-front campaigns that threatens more instability for manufacturers, consumers, and the global economy.
So all of these tariffs, man, it's gonna affect the global economy. It's gonna affect producers. You know what I'm saying? Their ability to produce at the level that they need to, and at the same time, it's gonna affect consumers because the price of those same goods that you buy, like from Dollar Tree, we was talking about, like most everything in a store like that is $1. They might have to switch the name to $5 Tree. You know, so all of those same things, they're going to cost. The prices are going to go up insurmountably, man. So that's going to overall just affect the global economy.
And that's what the Dollar Tree CEO said. They're gonna have to, you know, it's Dollar Tree. It's cost $1, but he said they're gonna have to raise everything up in the store. He said definitely by $1, but it may be $1 or more. You know.
Yeah. They're gonna have to put a range or something. You know what I'm saying? You got that word tariffs?
Con. This is a tariff on a dictionary, a Google dictionary. It says a tax or a duty to be paid on a particular class of imports or exports.
Right. So basically, a tariff is a tax. So Trump is taxing these nations, the nations that we depend on to produce things that are not made over here. You know, so obviously, if you're taxing the cost of the production, it's gonna on the back end is gonna raise the price for the consumer who buying these same goods that you need on your day to day, like toilet tissue and just basic household essentials. Man, the price is gonna go up significantly, man. So that's gonna cause people to buy less, which puts a strain on the entire global economy, man. You know, so even though they're playing tit for tat in the back end, this is detrimental to the whole global economy, putting tariffs on these different nations. And I've even heard and read articles that China, they put tariffs on things that America makes over here and imports over to China too. You know, so it goes back and forth, but the end result is not good, and it can only last like this for so long, because when people's bottom line starts getting affected, then that's when it gets escalated to war. Now you actually sending strikes. Now you sending boots on the ground. Now you're doing proxy wars. And then ultimately, we already know that it's going to lead up to the World War III.
Right.
You know? But this is a change in U.S. policy, because Trump, he understands, he recognizes that America can't sustain its dominant position being a place that's just known for consuming and not producing anything. That's why he's basically trying to make a real hard line, a change as far as policy.
Right.
You can go ahead and get that.
This is Daniel chapter 8, verse 25. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. And he shall magnify himself in his heart.
That's right. So Trump, he's a proud devil, man. You know, the Lord set him up through the Spirit to bring World War III quicker, we hope. You know what I'm saying? So through his policy, he shall cause craft to cease. And craft, it goes back to witchcraft, man. Just setting up different, whether you want to call it taxes or tariffs or taxes, setting up trade embargoes on certain nations, giving nations certain penalties if they don't comply to certain regulations. You know what I'm saying? They basically, everything that they're doing is to get a higher position over these other nations, man. So through their policy, they've caused craft to prosper in their hand, you know, in their rulership, because the earth was given into the hand of the wicked. That represents the rulership, you know, of that's controlling the earth right now. Through their policy, their ability to make laws, to adjust laws, changing the rules as they go. That's how they've always been able to have a head start over all these different nations. And then they'll call the other nations out for doing the same shit that they're doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just being total hypocrites.
And Israel's over there is an extension of America, but they do the same thing.
Exactly. And that's a big world for a nation. You know what I'm saying? They'll that situation in Israel, they'll be bombing those Palestinians to hell over in that Gaza Strip, you know, and they're accusing them like, hey, they throwing rocks or whatever, they throwing bottles, and then they'll justify that to retaliate and just airstrike them, man. You know? But that's how Esau does, man. He constantly throws the rocks and hide his hand. He's always using deflectionary tactics to spread propaganda to elevate his position. You know? That's pretty much it on that. Any precepts? Let's go. Let's read some more of that article. And we can get your precept too. Okay. And I was gonna say we can get Revelation 18, and we can get I got a few precepts, so we'll just read a little bit more in that article first.
All right. It says, in our view, if the U.S. is willing to impose tariffs and non-tariff barriers on China and Mexico, then the bar for tariffs on other imports U.S. trading partners, including Europe, may be lower than we previously thought. Barclays economists said in a research note, we think trade tension could escalate further before they de-escalate. Barclays added.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful point to stop at. Matter of fact, read that last part again where it talks about they could escalate.
It says, we think trade tension could escalate further before they de-escalate. Barclays added.
That's right. So that's what's happening right now, man. You know, these trade tensions is gonna escalate.
Right.
Further, and what do they mean by further? What's next after a trade war? After trade tensions, you're gonna eventually have to fight. You're gonna have to go. It's gonna turn into a conflict. You know, so that's where we at right now. That's the beauty of seeing these things happen.
Right.
You know, even though it seems like a long, drawn out, methodical process, it don't really seem to the person that's not spiritual like nothing is really going on. But to the spiritual man, it's a lot going on in the spirit. We rejoice when we see these things because these tensions escalating. We know that we're getting closer to the Third World War. You know, to all of these nations just rising up against America, trying to basically get what they can get from America, use that whore. You use and abuse a whore. You just get what you need and just, you know, dump, pump and dump.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
But that's it on the article. We can get some precepts now.
You got you want Revelation 18, right?
Yeah, what did you have right now?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna get, but I got another one.
Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. This is Isaiah 47:9. It says, "But these two things shall." You wanna go up?
Yeah, I was gonna say let's wait. Let's get Revelation 18 first, and then we're gonna come back to
Where you
Isaiah
wanna start
47. Let's start at yeah, I want to kind of jump around.
Start at 2.
Start at 3.
Start at 3. This is Revelation 18:3. For all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. And the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies.
That's right. So it says, all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. And for simple peons, pea brains, it's not talking about actual wine that you drink and get a buzz off of. It's talking about philosophies and doctrines and just a false sense of doing things, conducting yourself as a nation.
Right.
America has spread these false ideas onto these other nations.
Right.
And, you know, for the short haul, you know, these nations have had to take on to those philosophies to be profitable. Because that's why it says, the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. Because America is the richest nation on the planet Earth right now. So these other nations, in order to, they have to get into bed with Great Babylon, America, be able to make profit, to make themselves merchandisers, you know, to make themselves power players in the earth as we know it. But really, it's going to be to their detriment because you get in bed with a whore, hey, you got to take the consequences that come along with that risk, like STDs, you know, all kind of just hell. And that's with these other nations, mainly China, because China is America's biggest trade partner. They're in bed with America to the T. They're in bed with the whore. You know. Go ahead, Char.
Come. It says Revelation chapter 18, going to verse 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not her plagues."
That's right, and that's talking about the nation of Israel, meaning take your mind and your spirit out of this place, like it talks about in Micah the 2nd chapter. Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. And we don't want to take on the plagues of this place, because ultimately, just like ancient Egypt was plagued before it was actually destroyed, and before the Lord drowned Pharaoh's army, you know what I'm saying, in the Exodus out of Egypt, in the new Egypt, all of these things are going to happen as well. So we got to take our mind out of that whole philosophy and spirit of America. But I want to jump to some points just going into what we're going in.
I had a quick precept too.
Go ahead.
This is the book of Nahum, chapter 3, and I'm going to start at verse 5. And really, I'll start at verse 4 because it's going into Nahum, but Nahum is spiritually Babylon of America as well. But it said, I'm sorry, Nineveh.
Yeah.
Not Nahum. So I'm in the book of Nahum.
Yep.
But Nahum chapter 3, verse 4, because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, the mixture of witchcrafts, that's why we read in Revelation 18, it says, heard, going into it. And you read Isaiah 47 earlier, right?
Yeah, we gonna get that.
That's right. You was gonna get it afterward.
Just setting it up.
But that's right. But it goes into her. All right, the whore, the great whore. It says, well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcrafts, that selleth nations through her whoredoms, and families through her witchcrafts. Behold, I am against thee, saith the Lord of hosts. I will discover thy skirts upon thy face, and I will show the nations thy nakedness, and the kingdoms thy shame. And I will cast abominable filth upon thee, and make thee vile, and will set thee as a gazing stock. All right, and that's when this bitch is getting destroyed, man, by those nukes. Okay.
But first too, is being that whore is being exposed.
That's right.
For all of the dark deeds and basically polluting everybody, giving everybody STDs that have jumped in bed with her, man. And that's what he's gonna talk about in Isaiah 47. How lift up the skirt, I think.
That's
you know what I'm saying? So that whore, that's the first process of your downfall. Is just being exposed. Is being put on front stage, man.
That's
the
right.
whore is being put on blast.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Who's selling nations? Because we gotta ask ourselves, we gotta identify. Because people get simple. Well, America's not in the Bible. Well, we can identify this woman as being that nation, Great Babylon, America, man, who selleth nations through our whoredoms, through our philosophies, through our witchcraft, democracy, selling ideas of doing business. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
Right, and Isaiah 25 talks about how he will lift up the veil of the skirt of the covering cast of the wicked, which is America, that skirt being lifted as the priest just went into. Verse 7, it says, and it shall come to pass that all they that look upon thee shall flee from thee and say, Nineveh is laid waste. Who shall bemoan her? When shall I seek comfort for thee? Art thou better than a populace? No. That what right here it says skitse among the rivers and had the waters round about it. And there's numerous scriptures, especially when you read it. I believe it's Ezekiel 31, where it references those rivers and those waters that surround that great tree, going into those other nations that flow to that tree. All right, that let that tree grow in stature by the resources of the water, which is what America does with these other nations. Okay, but going into the point, in verse 9, it says, Ethiopia and Egypt were her strength, and it was infinite. Put and Luban were thy helpers. And that goes into these other nations that we're talking about, man. All right, so I just wanted to bring that point and go back to Revelation 18. It says in verse 4, for her sins have reached unto heaven, and the Most High had to remember her iniquities.
Jump to 7.
Jump to 7? Okay, it says, how much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. And that's what we just read in Nahum, the 3rd chapter, man.
And it's still equating her. Who is this her talking about?
Exactly.
As that being that woman, that whore that sits upon the beast that it talks about in Revelation, the 17th chapter.
Right.
Go ahead.
For she hath in her heart, for she said in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow.
That's right. So how much has she glorified herself and lived deliciously, man? Through selling nations, putting these whoredoms on these different nations, through policy, prospering, putting witchcraft on these different nations to get a position and have control of their resources, putting all types of loans on these people and insurmountable interest that they can't pay off.
Right.
You know?
I'm gonna jump down to verse. Do you want me to jump down to verse 9?
I kind of wanted to get 13 as well.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go. What, 13? In the same chapter?
Yeah, good. Well,
Okay.
I'm sorry, Slacky. I was talking about
Revelation.
Nahum.
You was thinking about Nahum.
Yeah,
You already had that written down.
Okay.
Okay,
We can come back to that. Yeah, just keep reading. You in verse 9?
Well, I was in verse. I read verse 8. Yeah, I read verse 8. It says, therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning, and famine, and she shall be utterly burnt with fire. For strong is Yahweh, God who judgeth her, and the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her. And that goes to those examples that was written of in Nahum, the 3rd chapter. You know, which we understand it ain't just those nations solely, but it goes into all the nations right now that have lived deliciously with Babylon. And as we're going into China right now, all right, China and America have been in deep cahoots with each other for a long period of time. All right, it says, shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning.
That's right. And we talking about the U.S.-China trade relations, man. But China being the biggest partner of the U.S., they're going to bewail when they see this place being destroyed. Ultimately, why? Because they've been able to make money. They've been able to increase in merchandising through this place. Even though the philosophies of this place and the way of doing business, they know it's detrimental. That's why they're trying to isolate themselves as far as not dealing with the currency, you know, trying to deal with other nations and form relationships with other nations as far as being trade partners to get certain things they need, you know. But they're gonna bewail her when they see this place going down. You know,
that's right. And when, if I may, and when you go into this as well, it talks about the whore and how the nations are gonna bewail her, man. All right, you think of it within a whore, man. You got a pimp. All right, how do you think of pimp and all the people that partake within that hoe when she goes down? You know, they're gonna be like, damn, the pimp first and foremost gonna be like, that's my bottom bitch. You know, what's the bottom bitch is the top notch bitch that made him all of his money. You know what I'm saying? You got these guys that are paying this money for this whore, for this slut, because she pleases them in every type of way that she can.
Right.
And once she's destroyed or discovered, all right, a skirt being lifted up, because when you go into that word discovered, that pretty much means to be taken up. You know what I'm saying? When you go into it, you see all the different diseases and abominable things that she has, and it's like, damn, but that box was good, and she did all these things, man.
Mm-hmm.
So all these people that partook within this whore are gonna look at it like, damn, what am I gonna do now? The bitch is taken, the bitch is discovered, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And they're gonna mourn after it, man.
Yep.
Because she topped so many niggas off, man.
Yep.
She was looking good to him because she was, they was drunk.
That's right.
They was drunk. Drunk off
That's
the
a
wine.
beautiful point, brother.
Yep.
God.
Drunk and getting that pleasure of that woman.
That's
you
right.
know?
That's right.
But at the time, when everything's all good, when you get that feeling, you're not thinking about the detriment, the STDs, and all of the backlash that come along with dealing with that whore.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah, when you drunk, you don't even care, man. And you wake up the next morning like, man, it stings when I pee.
Yeah.
You know, you don't worry about that when you in bed with it.
Trying to get that nut. You
You
ain't
know?
worried about
Yeah.
that.
God.
You know?
Now all these countries coming together and saying, hey, you had it too? Then everybody has a piece of
Exactly.
America.
Exactly.
You know, so they're getting to a point where saying, hey,
You need to kill the
we
whore.
need to kill the whore.
Yeah.
Take her out.
Kill this bitch.
Right.
God.
Yeah.
All right, this is Revelation chapter 18.
Just read through 11 and then we'll get something else.
Okay, read verse 10 and 11 or just jump to 11.
Read 10 and 11.
Okay, Revelation 18 and 10. And it's after they shall see the smoke of her burning. It says, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, the mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come.
Right. And this is talking about America, man. You know, it's not going to say America in the scriptures. It's talking about that great city Babylon, you know, the daughter of Babylon. And it says it's a great city. What do people call it in America? They call it American citizens. So it's talking about America. That's the city that's going to have that mighty judgment from the Heavenly Father in 1 hour. Because it only takes those nukes to reach their destination in about that time frame, probably less than an hour.
Right.
You know, because that's how this place is going to be destroyed, by thermonuclear destruction. Go ahead.
And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore.
That's right. Going back to America being the hugest consumer nation, man. So once America's destroyed, all these other heathen nations that supply America, that import goods over here, they ain't gonna have anybody to import their goods. So they're gonna keep and mourn over her. Even though they know that the philosophies and the way that America does things is detrimental, man. You don't want to get in bed with the whore, but you want that feeling. You want that wonderful feeling, you know? So they're gonna weep and mourn over not being able to enjoy that feeling, that pleasurable feeling to make money and profit anymore. Go ahead.
Just a quick one. Salaki, brother.
No, you're good, you're good.
This is Zephaniah chapter 1, verse 10. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord, that there shall be the noise of a cry from the fish gate, and an howling from the second, and a great crashing from the hills. All right, and the hills represent low governments. You know, you got mountains, which represents great governments,
Right.
and you got hills, which represent low governments, which are all the heathens that have partaken within this whore. Okay? It says in verse 11, Howl ye inhabitants of Maktesh, for all the merchant people are cut down. All that bear silver are cut off. And it shall come to pass at that time that I will search, goes into Jerusalem, be searched with candles. But the key point was in verse 10 and 11, going into the merchant cities being cut off.
Right.
All right, and this is taking place after the whore, because the whore was the one that supplied all the goods.
That's
Now, after the whore's taken down, the merchants ain't gonna be able to use the whore's goods because the whore's taken down, man. That's why they're gonna be well and mourned for in that day. All right, and Maktesh was a chief city in Nineveh. In Assyria, man. Nineveh was another one too. That's why we read it in Nahum the 3rd chapter.
You get that
But-
in Zephaniah?
Khan. Well, Maktesh was also another chief city in Assyria as well that was known for its trade. And as we read the Old Testament, we see as it names all these different ancient cities that was known for its stature and its might. And the scriptures use all these ancient cities to correlate the same judgment that's going to happen to Mystery Babylon, because Babylon, or America, is all these ancient cities that we read about bundled up into one.
That's right.
All right?
That's right. Then we, matter of fact, as you was talking about Maktesh, I was going to just pull it real quick. Zephaniah 1, is it like 11?
Oh, isn't that you just?
Yeah, that's what I just
That's
read.
what you read. So like, okay, I knew it
Sound
sounded
good.
familiar. I was like,
Done,
okay,
done.
you just read it. Okay. Go ahead, and then we can get Isaiah 47.
Okay. This is Jeremiah 50. I'm starting at 22. It says, a sound of battle is in the land, and of great destruction. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations?
That's right, the hammer of the earth. And the reason that Great Babylon is known as the hammer of the earth is what? Through their blessing, through their military might.
That's right.
Through their ability, man, to send a drone, to send an airstrike,
Right.
to send a fighter jet to these other nations, to send a nuke, you know? But guess what? The playing field is level because America sold that same idea and the same technology to build these nuclear missiles to these other heathen nations.
That's right.
So that's how ultimately Great Babylon is going to be made a desolation. The hammer of the earth is going to be made desolate. Go ahead.
Right.
I have laid a snare for thee,
Mm-hmm.
and thou art also taken,
Mm-hmm.
O Babylon, and thou wast not aware.
That's right. So the thing that the Most High gave them to allow them to establish control and dominate these other nations, that was a snare. That's going to be the same thing that's going to be used to destroy them.
God,
You know?
I'll slack it, brother.
Go ahead.
It even talks about Babylon being, the city being a nation without cares, man. You know, because you look at Babylon, usually when a city has walls, it's well protected, man.
Right.
Yep.
But that's why it calls it the city without walls. I mean, we know ultimately when you read in the scriptures in Isaiah, the city without cares, it's talking about us. But you know, that still applies to Babylon, you know, because they don't have walls surrounded by it, man. You don't got watchmen that sit over the walls.
Mhm.
And it talks about how they're taken within unawares.
Yep.
They've been caught up in so much pride, all right, believing that they're of God, that they're God. You know, they believe nobody can touch them, man.
That's right.
And that's why Yahweh Shah is going to send all these other nations over to attack them at the same time. When those nukes get sent over here, man, everybody walking around without a care in the world. All right? But when they get touched, that's when it's going to be a big issue. You know?
Matter of fact, please, Baba Shah, get Isaiah 47:1. Just to
Okay.
back up what he just said.
Yep. Isaiah 47:1 says, "Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin
That's just the
daughter
spirit, you know.
of Babylon.
Mm-hmm.
Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate."
Right. So they don't even have a fortress to protect this place, man. America's just completely exposed. When you really think about it, no walls. Really, like that, they don't really got no borders, really.
Right.
You know, even though they set up a border wall, that's a correction. They do have a wall down there at the border that separates the U.S. from so-called Mexico.
Right.
But from coming from the north
Yeah.
and from the east, it's just open, man.
Right.
It's
Right.
open sesame. The whore, that virgin, she can be touched, and she gonna be touched, man.
Right.
Because
God.
also too, just backing up what the priest has said, it hadn't been no major conflict that took place
Right.
outside of internal war, of course. You know, the Civil War, you know, the American Revolution, you know, just Edomite infighting in America. That's the only conflict that has taken place on American soil, but it ain't been no actual war between another nation that's taking place here. So that's why it's known as a virgin daughter as well, you know?
That's why the people so comfortable.
Yep. We're going to come back for more to that. Go ahead.
I'm going to bring this out. This is Nahum 3:13. Behold, thy people in the midst of thee are women. The gates of thy land shall be set wide open unto thy enemies. The fire shall devour thy bars.
Read that again. The gates.
This is Nahum 3:13. Behold, thy people in the midst of thee are women. The gates of thy land shall be set wide open unto thine enemies.
That's right, man. So the gates of our walls, man, which it ain't no gates here. This place is completely open just to be destroyed. So that's beautiful that the Most High set them up.
Right.
The Edomites to have that level of pride to where they don't even have no walls on this place, man.
Right.
You know? That's gonna be a snare unto them, you know? That's why the scriptures talk about pride go before destruction. You gotta be a proud nation of people to think that nobody ain't gonna ever try to infiltrate and touch you.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And really, America, that's why we just read Jeremiah 50, they the hammer of the earth. They beat down these other nations and hammered them, you know, to powder so hard, no one would ever dare, until the times we're coming into now, would dare raise up against America.
Right.
You know? Is it more?
Hell yeah.
The fire shall devour thy bars.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And it says, draw the waters. Well,
Yeah.
yes, draw the waters for the siege. Fortify thy strongholds. Go into clay and tread the mortar. Make strong the brickling. All right. And
Nah, keep going,
you
please.
can keep going. Yeah.
It just
Yeah,
goes
you
to
can just break that
Okay.
down if there's something else you want to go into that.
God.
Verse 15. there shall the fire devour thee.
The fire shall devour thee, because we read earlier in verse 13 that there's no bars or anything like that. There's no way to blockade it. When you go into ancient civilizations, man, they always had a wall that was there to block off different attacks. When people came in there, man, you always had archers that sat there over the walls to defend it, man. But it talked about this place right here having no walls or anything like that, man. So those firing arrows that came, those catapults that came with those stones of fire, it was right there in the midst of it. All right, go ahead, brother. It
says the sword shall cut thee off.
The sword shall cut thee off. Now we talking, and you're reading about ancient Nineveh, all right, but this is spiritually talking about America, because it says the sword shall cut thee off. Now what's the sword that's going to cut off America? All right, those are those nuclear missiles. That's what's going to cut America off completely, man. That glittering sword bathed in heaven that we read about, that arrow, that strong archer from the other end of the earth, that's what's going to take place here in America. Go ahead, brother.
It shall eat thee up like the cankerworm.
It shall eat thee up like the cankerworm. And what is the cankerworm known for doing? Eats everything up, your clothes, all of that, man. All right, go ahead.
Make thyself many as the cankerworm.
Go ahead.
Make thyself many as the locust.
Go ahead.
Thou hast multiplied thy merchants above the stars of heaven.
Thou hast multiplied thy merchants as the stars of heaven. And that's why I wanted to continue. Because it goes straight into what we're going into, man. Like we had read earlier, you got the merchants of Ethiopia, of Luke, all right, of all these different places, of Asia we read about. There's merchants that America has spread, man. So all these different merchants that America had are going to be, they're going to see all this, man. Like we read in Revelation, all the nations shall see the smoke of their burning, and they shall wail. America has made multiple allies and stuff through their abundance of their delicacies, as we read about, man. And all of them are going to see it, man. America's multiplied all their merchants, but at the same time, these different places are going to destroy it. All right? And a lot of these merchants are going to help with it.
That's right.
Because they seen that this whore is dirty as hell. Bumps all up in that coochie. Go ahead.
Start at the top of 16. It says, Thou hast multiplied thy merchants above the stars of heaven. The cankerworm spoileth and fleeth away.
Go ahead. Flieth away, yeah.
Flieth. It says, the crowned are as the locusts.
The crowned are as the locusts. Who was that? Those are the kings. All right, we read in Isaiah 47, we read about the Chaldeans. All right, that goes into pretty much the crown. That goes into the elites. All right, it says the crowned are as locusts. Okay, go ahead.
It says, thy crowns are as the locusts, and thy captives as the great grasshopper.
And those are the nobles. All right, you have the crown, and then you have the nobles, man. Those people that are under those elites, like the different presidents, the different rulers, and so forth.
Governors, yeah.
That's right. That's right. Go ahead.
It says, which camp in the hedges in the cold day, but when the sun arises.
It says, which camp in the hedges in the cold day. Meaning before when that judgment hits, they chilling. They chilling. They're pretty much spreading forth their philosophies and their doctrine across the earth. They chilling. The cool of the day. Like you read about in Genesis, the 3rd chapter, going into pretty much how Adam and Eve, after they ate that fruit, in the cool of the day, they was chilling. You know what I'm saying? It says the voice of the Lord came to them in the cool of the day. And as we're going into it right now, going into the judgment of this great whore, during the cool of the day, you have the prophets letting you know what's really going on, man. But they're chilling in their hedges in the cool of the day. Go ahead.
It says, but when the sun arises, thou flee away.
When the sun arises, thee flee away. When that heat come, man, you ain't chilling no more. When that heat comes, when those missiles come, when that fire comes, you fleeing. All right? And a lot of these elites that we're reading about are going to go into those caves. They're going to go into the water. They're going to fly in space to try to flee from that heat that's going to come. All right? Those kings that we read about that are like those locusts and those captains like the grasshoppers. Go ahead.
And it says, and their place is not known where they are.
Go ahead.
The shepherds slumber, O king of Assyria. Thy nobles shall dwell in the dust.
Thy nobles shall dwell in the dust. All right, and that goes right to what we read. Hey, that's why because that goes right into what we're reading, man. Thy nobles shall dwell in the dust, and what does that represent? Confusion. Now, what was the judgment that was given to the serpent in Genesis 3? It says, I will cut off thy legs, and thou shalt eat of the dust for the rest of thy days, man. Which means that the judgment of that serpent or Babylon is going to be brought low, man. All right, and they're going to be of that confusion. Go ahead.
It says, thy nobles shall dwell in the dust, thy people are scattered upon the mountains, and no man gathereth them.
All right, go ahead.
there is no healing of thy bruise.
There is no healing of thy bruise, man. And what's that judgment that was given, man? It said, pertaining to the woman, it shall bruise thy head, but thou shalt bruise thy heel.
Right.
All right, so this goes to that judgment of the serpent, or Nineveh, or Mystery Babylon, man, that we read in Revelation, the 18th chapter.
Right.
All right, there is no healing from thy bruise, man. And why is that? Because you ain't going, if you get dashed in the head, man, you're done. If somebody gets an axe and hits the head, you finish her, and as they say, cutting off the head of the serpent. All right, you ain't gonna be able to partake within that venom that it has no more, man. All right, then it's a little more to it.
Yeah, it says, thy womb is grievous. All that hear the root of thee shall clap the hands over thee.
All that hear of that destruction are gonna clap, man, because they partook in that stuff, and they partaken in the witchcraft, man. And they see that this whore is lacking, man. So they gonna clap when they found out this dirty bitch is getting burned finally, man. You know, just wanted to bring that point
Now
out.
that's a beautiful point, because like it's a sin, like kicking a man when he's down.
Yeah.
Yup, the great horse, she's gonna be kicked as she's
That's
going
right.
down, and
That's
that
right.
other nation just gonna kick her even more. And for that, can somebody, Bob Kashai, get Ezekiel? We're gonna come back to the Isaiah 47 too. Ezekiel 31 and 16.
Okay. This is the book of
Read that
Ezekiel.
real quick.
Okay, so like that. This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 31, verse 16. And it says, I made the nations to shake at the sound of his fall. When I cast them down to hell, with them that descend into the pit, and all the trees of Eden, the choice and best of Lebanon, all that drink water shall be comforted in the nether parts of the earth.
That's right, and that backs up what it talks about in Proverbs 29. When the wicked bears rule, the people mourn, but when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. So all of these different nations, they're going to be set back in their portion once Great Babylon is fallen. But the point I wanted to make, it says, I made the nations to shake at the sound of his fall. So these other nations, they can sense that America is about to fall. They can sense that Great Babylon is about to fall. So they're basically trying to get the best position that they can get. Because in their mind, they think, especially when it comes to Moab, they think they're going to be the next empire that's going to come up into power after Great Babylon is destroyed.
Right.
But they're sadly mistaken. So that's why these other nations, these weaker nations, man, they going, what did it say? They're going to shake at the sound of his fall. So they rejoice at the fall, but at the same time, like we read in Revelation 18, they're going to be mourning.
That's right.
You know, because they're completely tied together. The U.S. and the Chinese economy, they're directly linked together. So even though they're trying to make moves to get the best position as far as putting tariffs or taxes on each other, that's it's going to have a tremendous effect on the overall global economy.
Right.
You know.
I got a precept.
Go ahead.
This is Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 8. It says, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her, take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed. Because you read in the book of Nahum. Oh, that's what you had? Did we read that already?
We just read.
Yeah. All right.
That's the spirit. That's the spirit, bro.
Because that part where you at the end of Nahum, the third chapter, that's what made me think about it. You know what I mean? Because basically talking about how that there's no healing for of thy bruise, meaning once America is decimated, there's not going to be any reversal. There's going to be what they call it, a fatal wound, so to speak.
Like a headshot, man.
Yeah, that's right.
Like you could recover from a wound to the foot or the heel, but a head wound, that's a wound you can't come back from, man.
That's right.
You know?
That's right. It takes time for that heal, that Achilles tendon. It takes time for that to heal, and that's what Israel. It had to heal. It took time. It took a long period of time, you know. But hey, that's why the scriptures talk about Israel. The whole head is sick, but we're gonna be healed. But with Babylon, like the priestess went into, when you get hit in that head, or if you ever seen a Jason movie, man, and he got that machete and hit you in your head, or Negan with that bat, Lucille, what her name is, bro. You saw Glenn. That's gonna be Moab,
man.
That's Moab, bro.
Yeah.
And then it was the Edomite that got bashed in the head, and then you had Glenn.
Right.
I'm being funny, man, but hey, man.
We just had read it earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Woe unto Babylon and Asia.
Right, that's right, that's right.
You know?
Was it more to no, that was it. I mean, you want me to go back to
Isaiah 47?
Yeah.
Let's get some things out of there. Yep.
Okay. Did you want me to continue on from where I left off, or I can go to a point? Like verse 7.
Read through 3, and then we'll jump around to verse 7, I think.
Okay, this is back in Isaiah 47, verse 2. It says, take the millstones and grind meal. Uncover thy locks, bare the leg, make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, pass over the rivers.
Mm-hmm.
Thy nakedness shall be uncovered, yea, thy shame shall be seen.
And that's what's happening right now. That's what the priest Shahar was going into, man. You know, that whore, she's been exposed for all of those filthy, wicked deeds, man.
Right.
You know, like even King David in the Psalm 64th chapter, he says, hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked. So we know that it's always been a weapon, how Esau has, that he's used to move and establish position, with secrecy and deception. You know, but all of his dark deeds, they're being exposed. You know?
If I may land back, it says uncover the thigh. When you go into the law of a whore,
Man,
you know, what's she supposed to do? The priest is supposed to set her in and have her drink whatever she drink, and it's supposed to have her uncover her thigh.
Wow.
And when you look at that thigh and you see when it's rotted out, that means that she was a whore, that she committed adultery, man.
Right.
You know, and that's what the Lord is doing to Babylon when it says uncover the thigh. That's exactly what the whole world is bearing witness to, man.
Yep.
The fact that she ain't drunken, whatever she drunk, and that thigh is rotted out.
Yep.
And you see all that nastiness that she was involved in, man. All that cellulite. And it stinks.
Man,
You
that's,
know?
that's heavy.
You know, and a lot of Western movies, it shows you that when they go in these brothels, a woman comes sit with them, you know how to the skirt that y'all bloomed out, and they're taking to sit down, and they pull their
Straight
leg
up.
out. Yeah,
Straight up.
yeah.
I'm gonna keep going.
Keep going real quick before we just back up in shame. Habakkuk chapter 2, starting verse 15. Woe to him that giveth his neighbor drink, that puttest thy bottle to him, and makest him drunken also, that thou mayest look on their nakedness. Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory.
Ooh.
And that's what you see right now, and what the brothers is going into. You know, back into Isaiah 47. You know, Babylon's being seen as that book right now, and all the nations, hey, they're looking at this place and this ain't the beacon of hope. This ain't the way to go, man.
Right.
You know, everyone got to build this a place, and now what? Their economies are falling.
That's right.
Their people are out of order. You know, they're financially they're being fucked around right now, so to speak. You know. I just back it up.
Count the water. Back in Isaiah 47:3, it says, thy nakedness shall be uncovered, yea, thy shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance, and I will not meet thee as a man.
That's right. So right now, the great whore Babylon shame is being seen before all of the nations, man.
Right.
And all of the nations are coming to the conclusion, like, damn, you know, like, what have I got myself into bed with? You know, of course, at the same time, like we read in Revelation 18, as she's being destroyed, they're going to bewail and moan, you know, but they realize that this is a dirty ass whore that's been in bed with all these different nations.
That's right.
But jump to 7, Baba Kashar.
All right, verse 7, it says, and thou saidst, I shall be a lady forever, so that thou didst not lay these things to thy heart, neither didst remember the latter end of it.
And that's when we was going into how, talking about America, it doesn't have any walls, man. Just out of their pride, they didn't even have the wherewithal to set up a fortification system, a fortress, or walls to protect itself, you know? But you thought you was going to be a lady forever, that you was going to remain untouched forever.
That's where say the pride of thy heart had deceived thee and Obadiah. You know, Esau is the proudest devil on earth, man. He said that he can't be touched because of the position the Most High put him in, and the amount of power that he's accumulated so fast. He's like, man, I can't be taken down.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's why Trump sees, you know, he knows that America got it, you know, is the land of unwalled villages. That's why he want to put up a wall. You know what I'm saying? If he had that wall built, that he wasn't going to stop in Mexico. He want to put a wall as far as he can around the U.S.
That's a heavy point, because I made a point earlier saying the only place where they do have walls is down there at the border, the U.S.-Mexico border. But even Trump, he was trying to get these people to fund expanding that wall, because he knows in his spirit that this place, it ain't got no type of protection, man. But that's why it says in the end of verse 7, it says, neither didst thou remember the latter end of it, the time that we in now, that the time that these other nations are going to rise up and actually have the testicular fortitude to touch this place, to run up on this turf, you know?
God. Hey, it said, you just read, it said, I shall be a lady forever. Now, when you think back at ancient times, remember this is the King James Version Bible, and this is around the 1600s, and they use certain words or terminologies to represent something or somebody. It says, "I shall sit a lady forever." Now, there's a difference really when you go into those terms between just a lady and a girl or a regular woman. Like for brothers who might watch Game of Thrones or something like that, it says, "Yes, my lady." That means a woman that has a position of rulership, and you have people that are subject unto you. A noble woman. That's what a lady is. And that's the mind state of America, that they're going to sit in that noble position forever. That's why you read earlier where it says, "I sit a queen." You know what I'm saying? But that lady is found out to be that slut that got dogged. You know what I'm saying? She, like using Game of Thrones terminology for the brothers that might watch it, you have Cersei, who is a queen, but when you go into it, she was laying down with so many different motherfuckers, even her brother. You know, but that goes into the personification of America, man. She gives off that personification of being that lady, that delicate woman, that noble woman that sits in that rulership. But really, she's being found out more and more that she's a whore. You know?
Yeah.
Yep. I got that lady, the word lady in the Hebrew, which is Gabarath, basically a lady or a queen, a mistress as well.
A mistress. There you go, a hoe.
A side piece.
Yeah.
But a high classy one.
But a high, a high
queen.
Yeah,
A Queen.
In Israel, we ain't never had no queens within our nations, man.
Right.
Only the other heathen nations had queens, man.
Right.
You know, and America's the top heathen.
That's right.
But that backed up what we read in Revelation 18:7. "I sit a queen and I'm no widow and shall see no sorrow." You know, so they don't think that noble position, that they're ever going to lose that position, that position is ever going to be in jeopardy.
Yeah, that's right.
You know,
That's right.
through pride. Go ahead. Was it on it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. What verse were we on? 8?
We just read verse 7, so yeah, verse 8 is next.
Read verse 8 and then jump to the very last verse.
Okay. Verse 8 says, "Therefore hear now this, thou that art given to pleasures, that dwellest carelessly, that sayest in thine heart, I am, and no one else, and none else beside me."
That's right, and that shows that it's personifying a lady. Because the scriptures talk about ladies actually being careless.
That's right.
Careless daughters, women are careless.
Right.
That's just nature. Women are tend to be careless. So as talking about Great Babylon, the whore, the woman, she's been careless. You know, she didn't consider the latter end, you know, through pride.
That's right.
But that,
I'll tell this real quick. The brother read where it says, "I am, I should be a lady forever." Who's running Babylon? Esau.
Yep.
Read what Second Thessalonians, the second chapter says, he's sitting in the seat of the Most High. So what did the Most High say to Moses? He said, "I am that I am." That's Esau, man. He's trying to sit in that same position.
That's
He's
right.
trying to jockey and rule forever, man. You know.
That's right.
That's right.
It says, "I shall not sit, I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children."
that's right, and that just directly backs up pretty much what we read in Revelation 18:7.
Right.
"I shall sit as a queen and no widow and shall see no sorrow." So they don't think turmoil and tribulation is ever going to touch this place, man. We always say that, hey, America is going to be like the worst in a third world country, because they always put a negative shadow on these other nations that are plagued with war. You know, they always put in images of what's going on in Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan. But it's going to be way worse than over here in America, man. Because through pride, they never thought, they could never conceive that warfare is going to touch this place. You know?
Quick precept from Common Board.
Go ahead.
This is from Like-Minded. Psalms 49:11. "Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names."
Right. More things attributed to that heavy spirit of pride that the Most High put on the nation of Edom, man. They don't think that this system, they don't think that this society, that this rulership is ever gonna go down, man.
Right.
That's why they're scratching and clawing to gain every position and gain every advantage at this particular point, because they recognize these other nations, they've recognized that America's a whore, and they're trying to make other moves to isolate themselves, so they're trying to hold on to their position with dear life, you know? That's why they're putting trade tariffs on China. That highlights it, you know? But like we read in that article too, it talks about those trade tensions gonna escalate further, but what's further after the trade tensions? War.
That's right.
Right.
You know?
Gone.
Yeah, precept?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This is Revelation 17. I'll start at 16. It says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire.
Right, and that's talking about those vassal states, you know, that today make up what would be known as like the UN, the United Nations, and then along with the EU. So a lot of those partners with America that do business, they gonna isolate themselves from America too. They gonna come up against the whore as well, you know. So that they've been in bed with them as well. Go ahead.
Who was that? They when they was sending their ships over, Turner was it Spain? France. One of these countries said they didn't want to. They wasn't going to go with the American fleet. What was that? USS Roosevelt that was going to straight in the
right now.
Spain.
Yeah.
So you got these countries. They basically you starting to see them tell the whore, hey, no, we don't want to, follow. We don't want to follow you.
Exactly.
That's right. And Obadiah, all that man, like Confederacy, have laid a wound on it.
Yep, bro.
You know, when you confederate with someone, you actually in league with them.
Yep.
Hey, that backs up what the brother read, man. They gonna eventually, most of them put in their mind to turn on America. You know, their allies.
Yep. Yeah, that's the point being made as well. America's chief's allies gonna isolate themselves from them as well.
Right.
You know, really, when you really think about it, America only has like really one other ally. I was gonna say two, but the Saudi Arabians, they started to make moves too. You know what I'm saying? They didn't peep game on the whore too, and they making other moves. They running game on the whore as well.
Right.
So really, it's just them rats.
Israel.
You know.
They gonna draw them into the biggest ass whooping.
Exactly.
Man, straight up.
Them rats, those Ashkenazi Jews, those Amalekites, man. That's what's gonna cause America to go into World War III full scale. You know. Go ahead.
Verse 17. For Yahweh Hashem Yahushua has put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth.
That's right, and that great woman, you know, like we've been talking about, is America, Great Babylon. That's the whore that sits atop of the beast. You know, that's the hammer of the earth. Because even all the nations that are within what it used to be called the League of Nations before the United Nations, the reason that they rely on America is for the military support. Right. You know, the American military, that's the head military for their whole foreign policy execution campaign, if that makes sense. Let's go back to Isaiah 47, and pretty much after we finish that, I know it was something else in Ezekiel you want to get. We just get ready to wrap it up. Yeah.
You said the last verse, right?
Last verse. Yep.
All right. Isaiah 47 and 15 says, "Thus shall they be unto thee with whom thou hast labored, even thy merchants from thy youth. They shall wander every one to his quarter; none shall save thee."
That's right. So even the merchants that you've been dealing with from thy youth, from the beginning, man, the ones that came up with you together, it says, they shall wander every one to his quarter; none shall save thee. Going back to we read Jeremiah 51, it ain't gonna be no hill in Babylon, you know. So all of these other merchant nations that have used the whore America, you know, to wax rich through the abundance of the delicacies, man, they're gonna go to their own quarter.
Right.
You know, they're not gonna try to lift a helping hand to save America, man. You know. So to hell with this place, really, and to hell with you other nations, because we did make some points about you Moabites, you Ammonites, you other heathen nations. You somehow think that you're going to establish some type of position off of Great Babylon's fall to come up as the next power player, but that's not going to be the case, you know. That's why we read in Zephaniah 3 and 8, Yahushua, his determination is to gather the nations, man. So everybody's going to be put in subjection. But the main nation who's going to get it the worst is the damn whore that sits at the top of the beast, like we read in Revelation 17. Great Babylon, aka America, man. You know, it's going to be completely wiped out. You know, you want any other precepts?
I just want to quickly just back here what I quoted earlier. Obadiah verse 15. For the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head. So just to back you up, you just mentioned that this. Talking about all these other heathen nations are going to get, man, at the end of the day. You know, like we mentioned earlier, you fight and jockey for this position, but it's really just a part of the story of the nation of Israel being risen back up through the spirit of probably how about Shimon
Exactly.
at the end of the day.
Exactly. You know, because the power of the earth is in the hand of the Lord, like it talks about in Sirach 10, and in due time he's gonna set up over it one that is profitable. So we seeing that process take place too. That's why we so like in the spirit to rejoice when we see something to the person that's not in the spirit, like a trade war. That's all it looks like to these average people. Okay, they just put tariffs on China and Mexico, but to us, we in the spirit, this is moving us close to World War III.
That's right.
Things is popping off in the spirit, man. This is making us get close to the return of our Savior. This is making us get closer to the kingdom of heaven being established. To all of these different nations, they're gonna be set up in subjection under us. You know, so these things must happen. So we just rejoice through the spirit, and the glimpses that the Most High show us that things is happening. You know,
That's right.
did you want to get what you had? Yeah, go ahead.
This is Ezekiel 32, start at 16. It says, "This is the lamentation wherewith they shall lament her. The daughters of the nations shall lament her. They shall lament for her, even for Egypt, and for all her multitude, saith Yahweh power."
Mm-hmm.
It came to pass also. Well, I'm gonna jump to 8.
Yeah, and that's just backing up points we made, scriptures we made. These other nations, these merchant nations that have jumped in bed with Great Babylon, they gonna lament over her, man.
Right.
You know, even though right now we're in a time where the playing field is level, these other nations have nuclear capability. China, they're investing more into their military. You know, they're doing things to isolate themselves and see the horde go down, but they're gonna lament and well for her at the same time, you know? Hey, cause America, man, they doing their damn thing though. That's one thing. Hey, even though it's the damn devil, hey,
They
going hard in the paint, man.
Right.
You got to give it up to them. That's why they so proud in the fact that they don't got no walls on this place, because they just set everything up. They got a military base on every nation where you can throw a dart on a flag on a map, you know.
Right.
So they've always had the spirit. Who would dare rise up against us? And that was always the case until the time we in now.
Yep.
And it's for prophecy's sake, for the will of the Heavenly Father to be fulfilled ultimately.
That's
you know
right.
what I'm saying?
That's right.
Yeah, so you just had to be loose for a little season.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Straight up. Come.
Go ahead.
Verse 18, "Son of man, wail for the multitude of Egypt, and cast them down, even her, and the daughters of the famous nation, unto the nether parts of the earth, with them that go down into the pit." And like you say, that Egypt put America right there, you know, and like I say, we're gonna see, you know, Lord willing, in our lifetime, we're gonna see America falling, because we see this is the last days of the last days. All right, and like I said, with these tariffs ramping up more and more, what's going to come about? We're going to come to a real war.
And then too, just all different types of different prophecies. It's gonna be like a domino effect with these tariffs too. Also, the prophecy, what is Ecclesiastes 12, talked about the grinding shall cease. As we was talking about all of these producer nations, whether you want to talk about China, whether you want to talk about Mexico, they put taxes and tariffs on the production, which in turn, the people that are consuming, the cost of the goods is going to go up, which is going to put a strain on the global economy. People are going to be prone to buy less. Employers are going to be prone to invest capital in expanding and hiring people. So the grinding going to cease, man. You know?
These mom and pop stores be a strain on them.
Yep.
You know, you're going to start seeing more and more stores that, what is it, retail apocalypse?
Yep.
That's going to be ramped up.
It's already happening.
Right.
Like Kmart, that's out of there. Sears, out of there.
Hobby Lobby, you know?
Yeah. Was it not Best Buy, but the Circuit City?
Oh, Blockbuster.
Blockbuster. So we already seeing the retail apocalypse, man.
Right.
Macy's. That's a thing of the past, man.
Yep.
So, but these things that we're talking about is all directly connected to these trade tensions, man.
Right.
These this is the overall outcome of these things, you know. But it's gonna happen on a way larger magnitude, you know. And then the only other thing after the trade war is real war,
Right.
you know. So that's all I wanted to add on the subject at hand. Any closing points, precepts? Okay, well, hopefully this edified the body. You know, we want to give all praises to
Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rachakadash.
Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who taught us this truth. Shalom, peace, and blessings to the hopeful elect.
Shalom.
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 See.